Greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome to Deliver It. This is an Agile Product Owners podcast. This is Cory Bryan, and that is Kim Andrikaitis.
Whoop, whoop.
What's with the whoops?
I don't know.
Is it a whoop kind of day?
It's always a whoop kind of day. Hey.
I don't know what that means.
I don't either.
Okay.
I think that's the fun part. Do you notice my new glasses?
Oh, you got new glasses.
Did you notice my new glasses? No.
I didn't.
It's always something like, you notice my hair, you notice my glasses.
I'm a little self-absorbed today. I'm sorry.
What do you mean today? Aren't you kind of always self-absored?
No, come on.
It's all about Cory all the time.
What's your name again?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. No. I'm fine. You're fine. We're all fine.
We're all
here.
fine. Good.
Star Wars reference. I've had fun this weekend. I went and saw The Avengers.
The Avengers?
Yeah.
Oh, how was it?
It's nice.
Yeah?
It was very good. It
Good.
was long.
How long was it?
2 hours and 22 minutes.
Too long. I can't sit in a movie theater for that long. That's off the list. That has to wait till it gets on Netflix.
Wait, it gets on video?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, and then it turns into like a 3-hour thing. You know, because I watch like a half an hour and I'll stop it and then go do things and then come back.
Okay.
ADD. Slight.
It's okay. We all have problems.
So that's fun.
Some more than others.
Yes. We went to a wedding this weekend.
A wedding?
Mm-hmm.
Did it rain?
No, it was gorgeous.
Oh,
we went on Saturday. It was beautiful. They had it at a golf club. So it was overlooking the 19th hole. Absolutely beautiful. Mm-hmm. It was lovely.
19th
Beautiful bride. And
very good.
yeah, it was very small and it was a nice day for a wedding.
Very nice.
I almost broke into Billy Idol there for a second, but I stopped myself.
It's always a
Nice
possibility.
day for a white wedding.
No, you're happy?
Yes.
I'm so glad that we could get that out there.
So what else is going on?
Well, I have been doing a lot of reading and looking at Mr. Jeff Patton. He has been...
How's he look these days?
Well, he looks the same. I don't know why he's come up in my Twitter feed and a lot of the articles I've been reading as much as he has been. I don't know if he's on a new kick or something, but I've been watching a lot of Jeff Patton. He had a keynote that he videoed, or that was videoed, from an Agile India conference called Won't Get Full Again by The Who. Same title. And it was a lot about his learnings and things that he discovered as he was going, things he thought he knew and didn't. And there was also an article on common agilism for startups that he wrote, which was very good because it talked again about, the practices and everything that we do as part of trying to set up an organization to deliver software, that doesn't work for a true startup, because Agile is about delivery and discovery, and startups just about learning and getting things out in the market and getting your market built and everything else. So the Agile practices, the firm Agile practices that we usually like to follow, he says don't work for startup. And I can kind of see that.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because there's a lot of things about, the same thing within his keynote is talking about learning instead of velocity. What did you learn? Not how much did you do, but what did you learn? What can we use that learning for next time? And then the outcomes versus the output is another thing I think was really big, which is don't focus on your velocity. Again, don't focus on how much stuff you're producing. Focus on how effective that was when you delivered that piece of software, that feature. Were your users able to accomplish something? Did you get, more revenue or more users or whatever? What were your outcomes you were looking for instead of output? I like that.
Yep. That's good.
And he's the guy that we did a story mapping exercise when you and I worked together. Mm-hmm. And he wrote the book on that, literally, story mapping, user story mapping. And it's a great book, and a lot of people, and I think that's why he's popped up a lot for me lately, is because a lot of people are using that story mapping exercise, either for story mapping or application mapping or process mapping or any kind of mapping that you can do. He's kind of the one that started all that. And
he's the founder. Is he the founder?
I think I don't want to say he's a creator, because I don't know that, but I think he's the one that is most referenced as, this is the guy you listen to for story mapping. So
he's the user story mapping father.
Yes. So we'll put those links both for his articles and his book and video in the show notes, so you can see them yourself.
Very good.
Thank you. And we have a topic today.
We do.
You want to introduce the topic?
The topic is retrospectives. Dun, dun, dun.
Retrospectives.
I really enjoy the retrospective.
Do you? Okay.
I do.
Why is that?
I like, again, it always comes back to collaboration. Mm-hmm. So you get a bunch of people in the room. I'm all about how do we make things better? Let's identify areas of improvement. Let's also identify areas of things that we've been doing correctly, and let's keep doing them. And I like the idea of hearing everybody's feedback and really talking through what could be a problem and figuring out solutions.
Yeah. One of the quotes that Jeff had when I was reading through all his stuff, he said, the purpose of the retrospective. So are we stopping frequently to take stock of what we've learned and to rethink our product idea, our plans, and the way we're working together? So every so often you have to do that. That's how you inspect and adapt, which is a big Agile tenet, the inspecting and adapting. And that's how you work together to get better.
So for our listeners that have never been involved in a retrospective, I think it's important that we kind of point out the basics, talk about the structure, the purpose of the meeting, who does what. The first thing I want to say is that this isn't our meeting. So as product owners, This isn't our meeting. This is actually a meeting for the team, and it's usually run or facilitated by a Scrum Master.
Correct.
So the entire team at this point has the opportunity to give honest feedback, voice their thoughts, typically on how the previous sprint went. So we have retrospectives at the beginning of every sprint for the previous sprint, which I think most teams do. Mm-hmm. So much like at Stand Up, there are 3 questions that are asked. They could be what went well, what challenges did we face, what improvements can be made. There's some other add-on options that I've seen. What did we learn?
Right.
What still puzzles us? Mm-hmm. So, simply you can just do good, bad, better, if that makes it easy for you.
Right.
So usually the retrospective is held in one room with all the team members, but you can use an online tool if you have some team members that are co-located. So there's a number of them you can choose from. I use one off the top of my head. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like sticky notes online. Yeah. And it's great because my developer who was in Chicago could log in and he could also enter his own sticky notes and see what we were doing on our end. It was very collaborative and it worked out very well.
Yeah, you can use, I've used a product called Corkboard to me, I think, before. Mm-hmm. That was very cool. That was very collaborative and real time. And we also used Trello before for doing retros, which is kind of interesting.
That is interesting. Mm-hmm. Trello's pretty good. I like Trello. So in terms of facilitation, normally stickies are given to the team. They spend about 10 to 15 minutes heads down and they write their opinions, 1 sticky per category, right? So afterwards, the stickies are categorized. They're put up on a board underneath the categories. The team discusses, and then they're voted on. So essentially, that's how it's facilitated. Once the stickies are voted on, then we've got action items that are taken, and then the retrospective is complete.
Right. Yep.
Did I miss anything?
No, just the fact that we do this after every iteration. So every time we do a sprint, there's a retrospective. Don't skip the retrospective, or make sure your coaches and Scrum Masters don't skip the retrospective because this is the way you improve. All the other things that we're doing, this is how you circle back and either make sure they're doing the right things or reinforce that, or you suggest new things, or you eliminate bad things. Whatever you're doing, you do it in this meeting. That is why it's important.
And it's always to improve. And I think as long as you just harp on that, we're trying to improve, it allows them to go, okay, well, this is worth an hour of my time. And in terms of the materials that you bring, so stickies, of course.
Bring a pen.
Lots of pens.
Yes.
So usually the Scrum Master would come with their toolbox, right? And they would have their pens and their stickies. Sometimes they'll have little chocolate candies, coffee, make sure the team's got their coffee before we begin. Mm-hmm. So I actually attended a retrospective last week and the PO gave out little individual bags of popcorn and chips.
Individual bags of popcorn.
She went to the Starbucks and picked up bags of chips and
very
popcorn.
Cool.
That was very nice. And I actually took over her team and I told them that they weren't getting that from me.
You're on a budget.
Balling on a budget.
we can all have some Brock's. Who wants a jelly bean?
Exactly.
So it's becoming less of a thing that There were some, when retrospectives were first being done, they didn't want the product owner, or the guidance was that the product owner wasn't a team member, so the product owner didn't contribute to the retrospective. That is going out of fashion.
It's archaic thinking.
It is, because you as the product owner work on the team. You're not developing code. You're not, writing unit tests or acceptance tests, but you are working with the team to make sure that the story gets through the process in the sprint. So from that perspective, you and the Scrum Master and the team members, developers, testers, whoever worked on that, are the ones that are in that meeting. So if you have a Scrum Master or a coach that says that you can't be in a retrospective, tell them no. Tell them Cory and Kim said,
no,
I'm supposed to be here.
Not only are you supposed to be there, but you're supposed to contribute.
Yes, you are.
So don't just be there.
No.
Actually
show
contribute.
up. Show up and with your pen.
With your pen and your stickies.
And write. Write ideas. But I will say that so if you're the chief product owner or you're a dev manager or somebody who's in management, you're not supposed to be in the retrospective. The retrospective is supposed to be for the team to figure out how to work better together. If there's something the development manager or the chief product owner or somebody else needs to address, then they address that outside of that retrospective. But that retrospective is for the team to get better. And that's all it is.
That's right.
But of course, your coach and Scrum Master are running the meeting, so you defer to them, but you should be there.
So since you are part of the team, that does mean that your opinion counts.
Yes.
Okay. So when considering, questions that are posed, it's important for us to consider what the team can do to improve, but it's also important for us to consider what we can do to improve. Mm-hmm. So when I write my stickies under, what can we do better, I think about my own self and I think, well, maybe I could have written smaller stories and I'll add that, or maybe I should have had an extra grooming session and I'll add that. So I'm continually trying to improve myself, not just the team, not just the testers or the developers, but me as well.
Yeah. And I'm also looking at things that, what were things that caused the team to stumble over something, or what's something that the team did really well. So if I'm going to call out things that, if I accepted a story early, I want to reinforce that, on the good list. Accepted stories early. Yay. Keep doing that. That's what I want to say with that. If somebody was doing a good job for something. So if Kim did something nice, asking me by the acceptance criteria for a story, then I'd call that out there, because that's important to reinforce those things that you want to happen again and again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we also don't want to dominate the meeting. The product owner shouldn't dominate because we're all equal parts
right
for the meeting. So we should, focus on reinforcing the positive as well, like you just said. Another thing I want to point out is the meeting shouldn't be a complaint session. So we should be focused on giving real valuable feedback and mm-hmm. Cheering good behavior and determining how we can fix other behaviors. It's not just one complaint session for an hour.
No. It's things that went well, things that I liked. For me, it's mm-hmm. things that I like, things that I didn't like, and then things that I think could be better. But I'm not going to be I'm going to be honest, but I'm not going to be hurtful.
No.
Or anything like that.
Attack. Don't attack.
No. That's bad. Find a way to say it nicely.
Tactfully.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. But we are going to talk about things that did go bad. So, I've seen teams that, didn't have enough focus on a continuous integration system during the sprint, to get a testable build. So I'll write that, we need to get better at making sure our CI system is up. And because that's the way we know if what we're building is still good or not, is we have that. And if there's not enough focus placed on that, then that's a problem. So I'll write that sticky. Mm-hmm. Also, if there's not enough participation in grooming, if people are tuned out, I'm not going to call out somebody by name, but I'll say, how can we get more participation in grooming? We want to have better stories. How can we do that? By having people ask questions or participate. And then again, back to the honesty thing and the nice, they have to be that bottom level of that, the 5 dysfunctions of a team, right? The trust. Mm-hmm. The team has to trust each other that they're going to say things that are constructive and worthwhile, valuable things that they can build on, as they're doing their retrospectives.
That's a good point, because you'll find that new teams, everything is sunshine and roses.
Yeah.
And everything's just great.
There's no issues.
We have a perfect team. It was a perfect sprint. No.
There's there's some dark secret somewhere that people don't want to talk about. And that's why you bring this up.
But it takes time to get there too. Teams need to, what is it? The storming, forming, norming,
yes,
whatever. They need to get past that up to the norming phase, I think, in order for them to be honest with each other.
Yep.
So that's really important. I think for us, the main goal is really to listen to what's being said in the meeting. And by listening, we can really identify what small change can make the biggest impact.
Yeah. So things that I always like to listen for are our stories the right size? Did they feel like there was something in the story they didn't understand? Could we have better groomed that story better, or something else? Did we get to the point where we could get done with a story?
Done
with a story, right? Not, we finished the development, but we didn't finish the testing. We'll have to do that later. Right. That's not a story, guys. That's half work. And the value of the story. Does everybody understand the values of the stories that we were building, or the value of the story that we delivered, and how the users are going to be able to do that? Getting them to understand that, communicating those stories early enough. Did we do it early enough? Did we do it too late? What was the impact of the team on doing that, and how can we do that better? And then again, the groupings, we're going to look for groupings. Is it all around stories? Is it all around technologies? Is it all around testing? Is it all around, what are some of the main groupings that we as product owners can affect by either the stories, the prioritization of those stories? Is there any technical work that we need to pull into the next sprint as technical debt or something like that?
I think what it really comes down to as a product owner, as we're sitting there in this meeting, to really see if we can read between the lines. So if someone talks about not being able to complete their story within the sprint, maybe it's because the story was sized too large, for example. Mm-hmm. So it's our duties and responsibilities to ask questions and poke at the problem, because it could be something that's very easily fixable. So things that, concern or benefit the team, like you mentioned, or, the things that you talked about, but it's up to us, I think, to even hone it even further and try to get a little bit more information from them.
Yeah. And I think a good Scrum Master and a good Agile coach can help with this the most. We can do what we can, and we can try to put things out there. It would probably be a good idea, and I do this with my coaches, is I always talk to them before the retrospective and after the retrospective about what are some things that we need to make sure are brought up in the retrospective. Do we need to make sure that, people aren't getting the stand-up on time? So we'll write that down. Or do we need to write up something that, we did a really good job with story X, but we didn't do a good job with story Y. What was the difference? Can we pull that out? Can we make that an issue? And then after the stand-up, or after the retrospective, talk to them again and say, okay, what was the feeling in the room? What did you think the feeling in the room was? What do you think that was attributed to? And what can we do about it? What did you see that didn't come up on the board? Or what did you hear that didn't get on the board as a discussion point in the retrospective?
Mm-hmm. And I think there's one thing we haven't really talked too much about was once all the items are up on the board and categorized and discussed, then in my experience is the team members would have they would get the ability to vote on what they think were the top items that we needed to take action on.
Yeah, that's a common thing.
Right. So we would give the team members each 3 votes, and they'd walk around with a little marker, and then they would be able to allocate their 3 votes however they wanted. And then at that point, we would tally the votes, and then we would take the top 3 things and say, okay, how can we now take action on these things?
Yeah, I think that's the standard thing that most coaches do in retrospective. I kind of want to take the approach of whatever was wrong, we need to fix it.
Sure.
So if there was 5 things wrong, then I want to fix all 5. I don't want to just pick the top 2 and go. I want to fix all 5
What if
I
it's
can.
15 or 20 things?
Well, that's where, and it's who has to fix those things. Is it something that I have to fix as a product owner? Then I'll do it.
Right.
If it's something the team has to fix, then I can't really overload them unless they, say this is the most important thing we have to do. This, if it's the Scrum Master, or if it's, a manager, or if it's the client, or if it's whatever else is the issue. you have to find a way to solve the biggest problems first in the retrospective, so that the team can be more successful.
Right. That's a good point.
Yeah.
So I know that in the past, I've experienced team members walking up to me and saying, why do we need to have this retrospective? We don't have time for it. We've got other things to do, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, this meeting usually comes, and in most of the teams I've worked with, this meeting comes right after the demo too, because you do the demo, you get the feedback from that, and then you go right into the retrospective, which is actually how we've talked about it on the show.
Right.
How about that? Because it is important to say, okay, now that we're done with the sprint, how can we get better? And all the information we've had for the last iteration, this is where we talk about it. But yeah, that day is going to be a long day because you have your demos, your retrospectives, and you have your planning later, ideally.
So how do you respond when faced with, we don't need to have this meeting?
Well, my answer is, what other meetings do you have? Mm-hmm. This is one of the core Scrum meetings. So this is one of the ceremonies. There's usually 3 or 4. The demo, the planning, the retrospective, and the stand-ups. Those are the 4 things you do every time. So this is one of those 4. If there's a 5th or 6th meeting you're having, if you're having a code review session, or if you're having a staff meeting, or if you're having some other meeting, then how can we get you out of those meetings?
Right.
Because this is how you get better. You don't get better by ignoring things and keep going the way you're going.
Right. I'm with you. Typically it's what would come out of my mouth is too bad. I'm not really warm and fuzzy on this one.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. It's because I know that we have room for improvements. And I think that this meeting forces the team to step back and evaluate where we are. So I've never walked away from a retrospective thinking that it was a waste of time. Yeah. Never. Not once.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to take all day. I mean, this is something that at max should be done in an hour.
In an hour.
Right. I mean, if you've got a team and you've got the right size team, you've got between, 7 plus or minus 2, and you're being open and honest, and even if you're a new team, this shouldn't take that long, because everybody's going to write. They're going to put all the ideas up. They're going to read every single one of them. Mm-hmm. You'll talk about them a little bit and then see which ones kind of need to be addressed, and then talk about how you're going to address them. And that's all it really is. It's not like I said, it's not a gripe session. It's not a way to throw anybody under the bus, and it's not a birthday party either, right? It's not all kittens and rainbows.
Oh.
But you have to get those issues out, and you have to talk about them. So, and then figure out how you're going to get better.
Right.
So, so we talked about the team retrospectives. There are other retrospectives that you can have and should have. I remember very clearly that since we had a organization of product owners, so we had 4 product owners, we got together and did a retrospective very often on the larger project that you and I worked on. We got together and did Post-its. We did it online, and we talked about how we can improve as product owners.
I don't remember that at all.
You don't remember that? That's why we used Corkboard.
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, we did.
If you say so.
Yeah. But you can have retrospectives with your larger team. So if you have a leadership organization, have a retrospective with them. You probably don't need to have it after every sprint, but maybe after every other sprint, or maybe after every release, you have a larger retrospective with teams, or you have them with your leadership, you have them with stakeholders. They're involved in the process too, so you need to get their feedback. But you don't need that feedback with the core teams retrospective. You can have a larger retrospective. I've heard of teams, some organizations that had product-wide retrospectives, but it was after the individual teams have already had theirs. And so it was a bigger scope and bigger audience. But the teams, because they need to work together, they get to do theirs privately, and then they can contribute to the larger ones.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And I've done a few with some stakeholders, and I've done a few with some leadership team members, and it's okay.
I've done that too. We did one with the stakeholders not too long ago, and that was interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Any revelations that you?
No.
Okay.
There wasn't anything that went, oh, that's what they think. You kind of have an idea as to where you stand.
That's good.
Hopefully.
Yes.
Hopefully you have an idea where you stand with your stakeholders.
Surprises are not, I hate surprises.
I know.
But
you like good surprises.
Good things are always good.
Like a kitten would be a nice surprise.
Don't get me a cat. I'm allergic to cats.
No cats for you.
Stuff with the cats. Yeah, so you can have a retrospective for anything. You did a retrospective by yourself.
I did.
When you moved projects, and that's
true.
fine. I came up with the talk that I give, basically out of how do I know I'm doing the right things? And that was retrospective-ish. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
That works.
So yeah, retrospect anytime you can. You and I did a retrospective for our podcast.
We did.
And because we needed to.
Yes.
Because we had gone 5 episodes and we wanted to see kind of how things were going.
We'll touch base.
Yeah. And we did the normal, good, bad, better.
So can I tell the listeners how that went?
Sure.
Because I think this is interesting.
Okay.
So we met at a local Mediterranean restaurant over lunch. And Cory brought 2 different colored stickies and some pens. And being the overachiever that you are, you had already written your thoughts on an index card.
Yes.
So, of course, I felt ill-prepared because I hadn't written anything. You showed up overly prepared, and then I thought you were trying to upstage me.
No.
And I didn't appreciate that. So let's not do that again. Deal?
No.
Oh.
No.
So it was interesting.
I'm getting old, Kim, and I need to write things down as they come in my head, or they go away.
Yes, you can combine that with your bifocals.
Yes.
So I think between the two of us, of course, again, you've already had all your thoughts written down, whereas mine was just off the cuff. But I think our thoughts are very similar.
Yeah, I think so too.
So we were very happy with the cadence, the topics that we've been covering, the logistics.
Yes.
The studio.
Setup and
preparation.
Yep,
That's all been good. What was the biggest thing that we talked about making better?
The ums and the
No,
snacks.
I wasn't thinking that. I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking about marketing.
Yes.
Marketing the podcast more.
Yes.
So that was kind of the theme that came out of how can we make it a little bit better.
Yeah.
And we had some action items, which all came down to you doing the action items.
Yeah, funny how that is.
It was just fantastic for me.
Cory, why don't you go do that?
But I felt like it was a really good conversation.
I think it was too, yeah.
And there were, again, no surprises.
Right. Yeah,
Right?
I
I mean,
agree.
it wasn't like you said something and I went, what?
What do you mean?
How dare you? I can't believe you just said that.
How dare you, sir?
Was that a movie quote?
Yes. Never mind.
Nope.
Keep going.
Nope. So, yes.
So it went well, and I posted a picture of it, and we'll do it again. And again, if you're working with a team or working with a coach, even you and the coach have a
Or
retrospective.
maybe just working with yourself.
Yes.
Have a me, myself, and I retrospective.
myself, and I.
There's nothing wrong with that. You could actually bring this home, right? Have a retrospective for your family.
Yes, you can.
Seriously.
There are a lot of people that use Scrum and principles like that in the home, and they do retrospectives.
They track, like if you have a home improvement project, for example, track the tasks, who's doing what, and then later on you can do retrospective. What should they have been done? What should have been done differently? What went well? See, retrospectives.
You can retrospect
anything.
That's right.
Jinx.
That's right.
Speaking of retrospectives,
Yes.
since we haven't been talking about them enough.
No.
Guess what I have? I have my inspect and adapt
You have
retrospective coaching cards with me.
New glasses.
I have those as well. Thanks for noticing.
It's first time.
So, being that we are having a retrospective conversation, I felt that was only sufficient to bring my cards out.
Sweet.
So, would you like to choose one
All
and
right.
read it off?
We'll just okay. I'm not going to take the top one because that's cheating.
Okay.
I may cause a problem here. Okay, so the card says, how much do you agree with the statement? I just love coming to work. What would make you agree with that statement more? So this is, again, instead of doing the good, better, good, better, bad, good, bad, better, try, good, something.
Start, go.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
What is it? Things that went well, things that didn't go well, things that we want to try doing.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
That's what you do. So instead of doing that,
It's a good, bad try.
something like that,
Yep.
you could do, what would make you say, I love coming to work more? What type of thing? And
That's a good one.
Open it up to this group, discuss, and then see.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Talk amongst yourself. Yeah.
Talk about it.
Okay, you pick one.
My turn.
Coffee talk.
Coffee talk. All right. Mine says, what is the one thing that we keep avoiding addressing? That's the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
What's the elephant nobody's talking about?
Yeah. Somebody's got to bring it up. Who's going to bring it up first?
Right.
Who's going to be brave? Who's going to stand on the hill?
And I hope that there aren't any elephants. You know what I mean? Like in the retrospectives, I don't want there to be elephants.
Yeah.
Because we should all be honest and be talking about everything.
Yeah.
I don't want the little elephant cornering in the back of the corner. And everybody's looking at it, but nobody's saying anything.
Right. You want to do another one?
Oh, sure. Why not?
All right. Let's do one more.
Here you go. I'll give you the
One
whole
more
pile.
each. Okay.
And then you can choose
I
yourself.
have a pile. If I pull the same one.
Jinx.
No. How much pride do you take in your work as a team? How could you increase that?
Oh, that's a good one. Mm-hmm. It's a good food for thought.
I like shaking it up every once in a while on the retrospectives. Don't just do the 3 normal things. Every once in a while, bring something out.
What did I hear? And maybe you know about this. There's a retrospective idea that you draw like a sailboat. Have you heard about this?
Sounds
like
familiar.
You draw sails for things that are going to push you forward. You draw an anchor for things that are holding you back. Did you hear about this? Yeah, I think that's kind of cool. Yeah, I don't remember what the other one was.
I've never done it, though.
Maybe it was just the actual boat and the thing that's just going well and it's kind of keeping you afloat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Isn't that cool?
I have to look that up.
I'll look that up too now. I'm curious. Okay, last card. Consider breaking the group into smaller groups to encourage greater participation from everyone and avoid groupthink. Groupthink.
I always like it when so let's say you have a team of 7, when there's 5 stickies around the same thing.
Because then they have groupthink?
Well, no. Groupthink is well, like when everybody says the demo went well.
Yes.
Okay, great. The demo went well. I agree. I'm glad everybody thinks that. And it's coming out in the retrospective and all those things kind of get grouped together. So you see lots of stickies and they kind of correlate together. So demo went good, testing needs to improve or whatever else. But when you have a majority of the group individually talking about the same thing, that's not groupthink. That's everybody's focusing on something that either went good or went bad.
So you like it when they're all on the same page?
Yes.
Independently?
Yes. That's a good way to put that.
One other thing I want to point out, and then I think I'll be done here, is right before my retrospectives, I send an email to my team, and I give them the 3 categories, and I ask them to send me their thoughts back. And I know this is kind of off the grid.
Okay.
Instead of them going into the room with the stickies, because I have a co-located team, so I wouldn't have, one of my developers wouldn't be there. And this makes them really think about it before we go in, as opposed to coming in the room and people not having anything. Because that happens when they're not prepared. You're not agreeing with this?
No, I don't. I wouldn't ask for somebody you can ask somebody their opinion before the meeting. You can ask somebody your opinion about anything. But when we write the retrospective, or when they do the stickies in the retrospective, that's where you should be hearing it. Not for the first time, but that's where you kind of get that solidified as this is an issue or this is not an issue. This is a good thing. This is a bad thing. If they send it to you, then it's like they're reporting that stuff to you.
I guess I didn't look at it that way. But again, I didn't have a scrum master or a coach, so I ran the whole meeting myself. And I didn't really look at it that way because I felt like if they took the time to think about what went well and what we can improve on, then when we get in, we've got discussion topics.
And I think they can think about that. I mean, it's fine sitting, like if you want to do these cards or you want to do something to say, hey guys, when we're doing a retrospective, think about this.
Yeah.
These things. But let them think that and then come into the meeting and tell you what it is. I saw, and I tell you why, I to reinforce this today, I saw there was a retrospective going on. I passed by it. It wasn't my team. And I'm not going to, linger or eavesdrop. But what I saw was the manager of the group leading the retrospective.
Oh.
Okay. That's bad. When the manager leads the retrospective, and I've had coaches that have done similar things where they've gone to the manager because the team wasn't doing anything productive in the retrospective. They weren't addressing the issues. They weren't saying anything because the manager was there. They're deferring to the manager or they're afraid of the manager. The first thing they did, get the manager out of the room. Now the team can talk. Because the manager is going to say, that's not an issue or you shouldn't be worried about that. The team is worried about that. Let them be worried about that. Get the manager out of the room.
Right.
Let the team figure out what's going on, figure out how to solve it, and then you can tell the manager after how it went if there needs to be something. If the manager's the problem, the team's not going to say that when they're in the room.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
No,
So
the manager. I agree with you. The manager shouldn't have been there.
Yeah. I always prime the team, let the team talk, and then figure out what you're going to do later. There's also some great books out there. There's Agile Retrospectives, Making Teams Great by Esther Derby, I believe. And then Roman Pitchler has a great a product owner sprint retrospective article that he wrote. A lot of the same things, but he's a great writer, and it's a very good read.
So we'll definitely get those links out there on our page so that our audience can check them out as well. Mm-hmm. Very good. Do we have any questions?
I don't think so, but if you want to give us any feedback or if you have any questions about this topic or any other topic, you can contact us at deliberatecast.com. We're on Twitter at deliberatecast, or you can email us at deliberatecast@gmail.com.
Please send us some questions.
Yeah, anything.
Anything.
Even if you want to know why something happened.
Blank mind.
No. If you have any questions about product ownership, or you have any questions about Agile, or you have any questions about anything else, just shoot us a line and we'll
we'd love to hear from you.
Do the best we can.
I mean, we're just talking to the bunny at this point. I want to hear some questions.
That's right.
P.O. Bunny in the house.
All right. Anything else?
No, I think I enjoyed the retrospective
now,
conversation.
Next time, we're going to talk. You know what we're going to talk about?
No.
Why not?
No.
Come on.
No.
Play along.
No.
Okay, that's enough. We're going to be talking about saying no.
No.
Because I think we've covered most of the basics that a product owner would need to do, and we've got a lot more topics we want to talk about that are kind of off the beaten path or things that a product owner needs to do. And one of them is figuring out how you can say
no.
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 Both professionally and well. Tactfully, yes.
Yes.
Every reason you should say no.
I'm excited about this one because
you should say no to.
I have a hard time saying no.
Not to me.
I feel like I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn from our own podcast.
That's good.
Yeah.
So if you have a question or a problem, like you don't know how to say no.
You don't know how to say no.
Yeah.
Ask us, and we'll help you out.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure out a good way of saying no.
All right.
I think it's a good topic.
So now it is time.
Disclaimer
for our
time.
Lovely disclaimer. There we are. These words are our own, and they're not endorsed or representative of any company or organization. You can find me online at Twitter at @iscoreybryan and infrequently blogging at don'tyellatme.wordpress.com.
And as always, I can be reached through the show contact info.
Yes, and we just delivered episode number 6. Thank you very much for joining us today. We will hope to join you next time.
Very good. Thank you.